Right, the feature race is the Champion Chase. I'm going to kick off with Matt Toombs' trend first of all, please.
Trend is Henry de Bromhead's 4 from 18, 133% profit, particularly good with 2 mile chasers. And they're consistently underestimated. None of those 4 winners went off shorter than 8.5. Now, I'm taking a bit of a wild swing here. John Bond would be sort of horse who'd absolutely deserve to win a Champion Chase, has been put. But he has to prove he's as good at Cheltenham. I don't think he's bomb-proof. And Quilixios is interesting. He lost the race at the start in the Arc. Forgive that. He thumped Marine Nationale 7.5 lengths, giving him £4 at Nace on good ground. I don't think he's suited by the bad ground in the Tingle Creek. Still 8 lengths second to John Bond, so to have a place chance on that. Henry's horse is well under the weather when he faded at DRF. Now, he's not a certain runner. Henry said he wants to see how he is. The vibes are he's taking time to recover from the Dublin Chase. But he's 85.0. If the ground's decent, I can see Solness going a real clip here, getting John Bond and co out of a rhythm. Quilixios turns up and it's not a swab. I think he's got a real chance. So definitely worth taking a price at that sort of level.
Donn.
Yeah, it's an interesting race, the Champion Chase, Tom. I think there are pockets outside of John Bond. Look, as Matt said, John Bond is the most likely winner. He's priced up accordingly. He's probably not as good at Cheltenham as he is, let's say, at Sandown, but how far below his best at Sandown does he need to be in order to win it? And the answer is he'd probably get away with a little bit at least. But outside of him, Nergamin probably needs soft ground. Gaelic Warrior probably needs further. He was disappointing the last time. Ile Francais, he's interesting, but he's short for a horse whose last run was in the King George and who won a Cota Star Chase. I think Solness is a player. I think he's still an underrated horse, but I think Marine Nationale is even more underrated. He's only run 5 times over fences, and you know he when he won the Supreme Novices Hurdle, he looked destined for the very top. Then he won his beginner's chase on his first run next season. He got beaten next time, and he was out then for the rest of the season. But this year, he's to me, he's improving through the season. He was beaten by Quilixios, as Matt said, on his first run. Then he ran really well at the Christmas Festival behind Solness. He ran better the last day against Solness when he closed up. He traded a short price in running to get the better of Solness in the end. Danny Mullins had obviously saved a little bit on Solness and he went away again. But I think Marine Nationale, back at Cheltenham where he put up his best performance over hurdles in a Supreme Novices Hurdle, I think he can come forward again. Like he's 8 years old, but he's still, with those just 5 runs over fences, he still has the potential to improve again. Barry Connell's horses are in really good form. William Money, of course, won the other day. Each to their own ran well the other day. Slane Hill ran well the other day. His horses they're in good form, a small team, and especially if the ground is not too bad on Champion Chase Day, I can see Marine Nationale surprising a few people, and of course he'd be an extremely poignant player and a poignant winner.
Yeah, I think it'd be the most emotional winner of the week for obvious reasons. Bring the house down stuff. 9.4 Marine Nationale. We saw Nergamin lurking there at 13.0, Emma.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the price he was, to be honest. Dual Champion Chase winner. Look, he is 11, which is the big thing. But like you were talking about ground earlier, if it did happen to come up softer or worse on the day, I think he's going to have a massive chance here. Look, I know he was beaten by John Bond last time in the Clarence House, but if you look through his form, like he's been beaten in the Clarence House every single year, and every year he went on to win the Champion Chase. He was beaten 6.5 lengths by Editor de G. I was encouraged by quotes from Willie as well on him. Kind of at the start of the year, maybe they were considering stepping up and ship for the Ryanair, but they kind of feel as if maybe he can come on again for that run. And look, it's kind of a selection that's kind of hinged on ground. Like if it wasn't soft or worse on the day, I won't be backing in Nergamin. But if it comes up, if there's plenty of rain and it comes up as it would suit an Nergamin, I think he looks like a great bet at that price.
And continuing the theme with bigger prices, Gaelic Warrior, Don suggested he might want a bit further, Lee. I mean, he's going to have to run a bit faster than he did at Leopardstown, isn't he?
Look, you have to be a forgiving person to be back in Gaelic Warrior. I just think 11.5 on the Matchbook, I think that's huge. Look, like the team there said, John Bond definitely the one to beat. I don't have so much queries about going around Cheltenham. He performing in a Slayer chase. He bounced on a fence when they rearranged the Clarence House and still nearly got back up on the line. Look, he's definitely the one to beat, and he's worthy of the favourite title. But if you can forgive the last run, and you have to, I don't think Gaelic Warrior was at the races the last day. He ran close enough on a seasonal debut behind Solness, ahead of Marine Nationale. He he didn't perform last season at the Dublin Racing Festival and then absolutely sluiced up in the Arkle. I just think he's got a big enough performance in him. You have to be a forgiving person, but for a couple of quid at 11.5 on the Matchbook, I think it's a big price.
And Charlie, finally someone's with John Bon. Charlie.
Yeah, massively for me. I mean, like you look at the I get the Cheltenham thing, but he got smashed by Constitution Hill in the Supreme, and then he got beat by a peak form El Fabiola in the Arkle. And the day behind the licks of the nuts, I mean, he headbutted fences, he nearly fell and still nearly won. So I don't think it's that bad. And this year he's been at the top of his game. He's odds against, which I think is madness when you look at some of these. You know, Ile Francais, I don't think it'll be quick enough. Surely go for the Ryanair. Gaelic Warrior, you wouldn't know what's going on with him at the moment. Energumene, yes, on soft ground, could be a contender. And Marine Nationale, I've got respect for on good ground, but I just think John Bon is a cut above these. And this is the moment for him. It's now or never if he's going to win a champion chase, because he's not going to get a better opportunity than this. And I'd be very strong on him.
There honestly can't be many Grade 1 races where the 16, 17 odd entries I have in front of me now, and maybe even more, 19. Only I think 5 of them won last time out. Like they're a bunch of question marks, and you've got John Bon in here, Michael. Are you with? So you put John Bon. Are you? Is this a lay? Sorry, or are you with?
Oh, I mean, like I say, it's going to be evens. I can see him going slight odds on because, as everyone said, Ile Francais looks surely going to run the Ryanair. There's question marks over every other horse in the race. If you're willing to forgive each horse its particular question mark, then the 10 or 12 to 1 could prove to be a big price. But John Bon is going to do exactly what he says on the tin. And I'll be against evens, possibly a shade of odds on. But it's a bit like Kopek. I expect to pay, but I think at even money. And as Charlie's just put it up, if he doesn't win this one, then I don't think he will ever win a race at Cheltenham. But again, evens is probably about the right price. You put a gun at my head and said I had to back or lay, honestly, I would probably back him. But I think come the day, because a few of these other runners aren't going to turn up and they've got big question marks, it's going to be 4 to 5, 8 to 11. It'll be stud again, but like Kopek, not for a lot.
All right, there you go. A real split then on John Bon in the champion. The Turner's Novices Hurdle now, the intermediate one. We've got a bit of variety here. I forget who I haven't heard from for a bit. Dan, feels like you've liked this horse for a bit, the Skelton horse.
Yeah, I have, and I can already tell Matt's going to come at me with his trend about the Challow Hurdle, which I'll let him touch on shortly. But the New Lion, to me, I don't think is your typical Challow Hurdle winner. Now, I would normally associate them with more real staying types. Obviously, it can tend to be a real slog at the trip, 2.5 miles galloping Newbury track, and that doesn't tend to lend itself to the Turners, 2 mile 5, typically on a bit better ground and what can be a relative test of speed. But to me, I think this is a horse who could step back to 2 miles if required. And so far, everything he has done has just oozed quality and class. And you listen to the way Dan Skelton speaks about him, you can tell he thinks he's something a bit different, and obviously has been sold for massive money since. Yes, you can crab the absolute bare form of it, but you look at the way he's been ridden, it's been with the utmost confidence. He's only won by about 4 lengths in his 3 hurdle starts, but every time he's only really doing what is required. And in the Challow, he really did take the mickey, just could have got there at any time he wanted, only allowed to go after the last, and even then wasn't asked the full question. And to be fair, Wendigo is now about the same price for the Albert Bartlett that Wingmen is, and obviously Final Demand, that's the form line we're going on. And if you were to be a Final Demand fan, and if you were to crab the Challow Hurdle, I think you would say that Nathaniel Lacey isn't exactly producing multitude of Turner's winners either. So to me, I think it's getting to the stage where the New Line is almost a bit disrespected because of the Challow Hurdle curse, so it seems. But I don't think he's your archetypal Challow winner. I think he's a bit better.
Yeah, the trend is that Challow winners are 0 from 21. 16 of them have gone off single-figure prices. But I do take what Dan says on board 2 reasons. One, I think he might be a bit quicker and a bit better. And secondly, as Dan has said, the reason the Challow winners have such a bad record is they tend to be more stayers. And they're up against the 2 mile Grade 1 form usually in this. And it's those horses that tend to win. And there probably isn't going to be any 2 mile Grade 1 form this year. So the one I like is the Yellow Clay. At the start of the season, Gordon was saying him and Romeo Coolio were the fast horses of his novices. Wingmen and Jalan Duderi, who was supposed to be going hurdling, were his stayers. I think for as long as the same connections, Wingman and Gordon's Balibo, are okay for the Albert Bartlett, the yellow clay will run here and therefore he'll shorten. So hopefully he's a good anti-post bet on that basis. Looks really progressive. I thought he won the Grade 1 at Nace, despite Gordon thinking he hated the testing ground and that he quickened well in that background, then got a bit tired close home. So rather than looking like an out-and-out stayer who'd want the Albert Bartlett, I think this probably is his race. His form with Wingman and Jasmine DeVoe looks pretty similar to Final Demands, who's much shorter. Even though he's shortened over the last day or so, I can see him continuing to shorten. Also, keep an eye on the vibes about Salvatore Mundi. It's very likely that Paul rides Kopek de Board in the Supreme, Final Demand here, and just doesn't have an A-teamer in the Albert Bartlett, which leaves Salvatore Mundi as a B-teamer in the Supreme. But if he works the houses down at home and Paul wants to ride him, he's only in the Supreme, and it could push the other two A-teamers out to the longer races. Kopek de Board is a big price here, about 30.0 anti-post. Probably be odds on if he ran. Now, it's pretty unlikely, but be prepared to take an anti-post punt at long odds if those vibes change about Paul wanting to ride Salvatore Mundi as well.
All right, we definitely feel like compared to previous years, we know a bit more where we stand in regards to Mullins Bingo anyway. Well, we haven't had a Mullins Bingo section, so that probably tells us everything you need to know. Charlie, you're top of the market.
Yeah, Final Demand. They're two very good horses, and then it's a cracking contest shaping up. As in, I've massive respect for the new Lion, and I'd be delighted to see him win. In all honesty, but I Final Demand. I like the way he goes through his races. He races slightly behind the bridle. I thought he hit the line really strong at Leopardstown, and just the two of them, I'm just marginally preferring him in this contest for all that I think they're both really exciting prospects.
Michael, who are you keen to take on?
Well, I've heard all the like Dan said about the curse of the Challow, but I do think it was a not your standard Challow winner, and the new line has got every chance. I do think there's plenty of horses here that could improve. I think Final Demand is a bit overbacked. It's big yard. It's won impressively at the DRF, and I think this could go off a daft price, and I'd be happy to be against it. There's 3 or 4 in the race, but it seems to me every horse seems to be entered in the Supreme and in the Supreme and the Turners, or in the Turners and the Albert Bartlett. So I think there's plenty of different ways the entries are going to go between now and the day. But at the moment, I think Final Demand is just a little bit too short, although obviously you have to respect his chance.
Okay, Emma, I feel like you're our big price tipster, Emma. There's loads of prices going up.
Could go really, really well or really, really badly.
Yeah.
Final Demand would probably be my nap of the week if he was in the 3-mile race, but I don't like him dropping back in trip for this. I think that Natalia Lacey, has a winner of that ever come on to win the 2.5 mile at the Cheltenham Festival? I'm not sure if they have. So I was just looking at something a bit further down the market. I think Yellow Clay is a 3-miler as well. He won the Lawlers on heavy ground. I think he wants a trip. And there's been plenty of strong word about James's Gate. I thought he looked really, really well handicapped off America. Was it 138 or 136 even? He was supposed to run at Leopardstown at the DRF, but didn't show up there. So I thought he might have gone for a festival handicap. But the word is they're going to go for this race. I think he's a proper sumo. I think he's quick. He was third in a champion bumper behind Facile Vega. He's got experience around the track. And the fact that Martin Brazel is putting him in this Grade 1 would make me think he's working the house down at home. Plenty of people are talking about him. And I think for this race, you often want maybe, a kind of quick horse rather than a stayer. And I think the ones up the top of the market look more like stayers to me, which is why I'm going to take a bit of a chance on James's Gate at a price.
Okay, confirming that no winner of the Nathaniel Lacey has indeed won this, as you say. Another big price for you, Donn, keeping the faith.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting race. It's a pity Kawabunga's out, just ruled out today, which is a shame. He would have been a big player here, but as Emma said, Final Demand dropping down in trip. It's a pacey race, this, as we've discussed before, over the intermediate trip. The new Lion bidding to lay the Challow hurdle goes to rest, as the lads have been discussing. And yeah, I think Poste Charm is a forgotten horse of the race. He's in the early part of the season, it looked like this was his race, and it always has been his race. He ran after winning the Hyde hurdle at the Cheltenham November meeting. He went to the Formby hurdle at Aintree, dropped down and tripped 2 miles on a furlong in the fog on soft ground, and won really impressively, beat Miami Magic, who finished second in the Dovecot hurdle there at the weekend behind Tripoli Flyer. Then he was beaten at Cheltenham's January meeting, and it seemed like a bit of an afterthought that he went there. I think Willie Twiston-Davies even said that afterwards, and they're going to bring him home, freshen him up, and bring him back. So he underperformed there, but I think you can allow that. It was a 30-day break between the Formby Hurdle and the Classic Hurdle the last day. He's got 46 days between the Classic and the Turners, and I think that's enough time to just freshen him up again. He's only been beaten once over hurdles, and he's 1 for 1, and he won his only bumper as well. So I just think if you ignore his run the last day, which I think you can, and he was given £5 6 mile bridge as well. And it wasn't like he ran deplorably, he finished second, but I think he's better than that, as he proved earlier in the season, and freshened up back at Cheltenham over this should be an optimum test for him, a speed test over the intermediate trip. And I just think he's gone out to too big a price.
Finally, Lee, we've had this horse mentioned already.
Yeah, I'm the same as Matt. I think through a line through the likes of Jasmine DeVoe and Wingmen, pretty similar to Final Demand, but one is a much bigger price. I take the win and the place. Look, the new Lion, I can't have anybody tell me that the Yellow Clay or Final Demand wouldn't have done the same in that shallow. Look, he looked impressive, but there is two different type of horses. He steadily progressed as well. He won a grade 3, grade 2, and in that grade 1 Lola's the last day. And yeah, I think he can come on again. Gordon's been adamant from kind of the start that this was his race, and any improvement in the ground from the last day would help his chances as well. Yep, I think he's a solid play on the day.
Brown Advisory, Novices Chase. Let's start in the 4 camp first of all. Dan, overall 2.82 Ballyburn. Take it away.
Yeah, and once again, the solo representative of Ballyburn, which really does surprise me. Now, I think there are things you can throw at him, but to me, he was the standout novice hurdler of last season, which were probably not the greatest of bunches. Obviously, he then beat Slade Steele, went on to win the Supreme over 2 miles, then stepped up to what was the Ballymore, now the Turners, and won emphatically, pulling away. And now you can poke holes in that form as well. Obviously, Jimmy DeSoy was second. Was it the greatest of crop and novice hurdlers? Probably not. But to me, he was the exceptional one. And I think it was testament to his ability that he was doing it all over trips clearly shorter than what realistically he was ever going to want. You look at his pedigree, it's all stamina there. And I think realistically, the best thing that may have ever happened to him was that run against Sergino over 2 miles, where I think it proved he just didn't have the natural capacity or jumping ability at 2 miles on decent ground to live with a horse of that caliber. Stepped up to a much more suitable trip at the DRF and ridden with extreme confidence. Actually, went going a length down after the last there, but the way he then extended from Croke Park, having looked briefly like he might be on the back foot after landing at the last, to me was a horse clearly of fantastic level of ability. I think that stepping up to 3 miles is only going to bring out further improvement based on all of what we've seen through his run style over 2.5 miles and his pedigree. To me, he's the standout one on this, who I think can go into the Open Company next season and be a player in those major races. So Dancing City is very much respected. He's a very admirable horse, great jumper. I think his chance relies on it being a real stamina test and a real slog. The last couple of renewals of this race haven't necessarily been that, but maybe with the novice handicap taking the place of the 2.5 mile grade 1, that may change with a bigger field. But to me, Ballyburn was the best horse last season. I think he's the best horse this season. And I think 3 miles will bring out further improvement.
Are you there on the Wednesday?
I am.
Good. Tats or club?
I'll be wherever you aren't.
Okay, fine. It doesn't matter because you have both pitches you can go to, right, Michael? Because you're happy to stand this bet.
I mean, look, Ballyburn, is everything that has just been said, it is true. But it's just a price thing for me. You know, it's going to be 6-4, 7-4. I'd have to agree. Dancing City, if the ground comes up really soft or testing, it probably needs it to be, and that's the second favourite. Wouldn't surprise me if Ballyburn was well backed. But do you really want to back a horse first time it ever tries this trip at the festival in a race where it's not going to have much wiggle room? And look, I'm not saying he can't win, not saying he won't win. He may well win. But from my angle, it's just a little bit too short. And I'm happy to lay anything resembling 7-4 this horse.
All right. I honestly thought there'd be more 4s. I'm I guess pleasantly surprised. I'll just work through an order I have in front of me. Donn, first of all.
Yeah, I like Better Days Ahead, Tom. I just think this is his race. Gordon Elliott has said it from a while ago that this race is made for him, and it looks that way. He's a Martin Pipe Hurdle winner from last season, and we know in the Martin Pipe Hurdle It doesn't happen every year, but it can be a springboard for horses to go on to be very, very good at staying chasers. Like Galopin de Champ won it, for example. Banbridge won it. Sir de Champ won it. Kilolta Vic won it. The Galway Plate winner, Early Doors, won it. So it's a race that it's a 2.5 mile race, but it tends to be more a stamina test and won by horses who go on to be staying chasers in the future and better days ahead. He won the race through stamina last season. He didn't look like the most likely winner turning for home, but he stayed on really well on the far side for Danny Gilligan and won well. He's had 3 runs over fences this season. He beat the Supreme Novices Hurdler State Seal at Navan on his debut. He got beaten by Croke Park next time, but he stayed on. He only just failed. And as we saw the last day when Croke Park took on Ballyburn, Croke Park was, and maybe still is, an underrated horse. Then Better Days Ahead went to the 10 up chase last time, and he only won by a neck from Stellar Story, but he was in front from a long way out. He was in front 4 out that day. Stellar Story, he's a good horse. He's the Albert Bartlett Hurdle winner, a Florida Pearl Chase winner as well. And Better Days Ahead probably had more in hand than the neck winning margin. We're back to Cheltenham Festival form, Cheltenham Festival winning form. He's only had 3 runs over fences. A stamina test at this time, at the 3 mile or extended 3 mile trip, that should play to his strengths. And it just, his jumping the last day at Navan was really good. That's a big asset to bring into a Brown Advisory chase. And yeah, I can see him running a big race.
Charlie.
Yeah, I can see where Don's at with that. And I mean, I'm just similar, but with Croke Park, obviously got beat by Ballyburn down in Trip the last day, but I think this is what he wants. You know, he's just an absolute slogger, got a really admirable attitude and maybe a little bit underappreciated, but I'd have thought the test of this race would suit him ideally. Ballyburn, a massive respect for. I just think he's a bit classy for this. You know, they would, for all that, you know, Dan saying that the pedigree screams it, and it does, but they were talking about champion hurdles last year after he won the 2.5 mile novice, and it just seems like this is where he has to go because there isn't really another option with them taking out the 2.5 mile novice chase. So I think he's short because of that, and like I say, I'd just rather go with one with proven stamina.
And Emma.
I think Donn made the case for Better Days Ahead. I was with him as well. Yeah, nothing to add from me. I think he'll be staying up the hill strongly. I'd be weary of Ballyburn, but I think Better Days Ahead looks good value.
All right, other Wednesday bets then. I tell you what, we got one person with Ballyburn. We got 3 people with Calypso Chance in the bumper. Emma, straight back at you.
Yeah, I just think he's kind of drifted out to a really good price. He's probably been a bit forgotten about, I suppose. A few more fancy horses came out since he's ran. We haven't seen him in a while, and he's probably just been a bit forgotten about. Elise O'Neill was very complimentary of him on a preview there a couple of weeks ago. I wouldn't say she was kind of the one everyone wanted to be with. When Patrick Mullins won on him, he was kind of saying he was as good as anything Willie had at that time, anyway. At least, just looks like a good price. Look, the race he won, like the last few winners of that, all went on to run well in the champion bumper, like the likes of American Mike, Boy Allen, and a couple of others. Look, Gordon does well in the champion bumper. I just think he looks a good price. There going to that one.
Yeah, 8.0. Donn, addition to that, anything?
Yeah, Emma's covered most of it there, Tom. It wasn't a fast run race the last day, and he came from behind and quickened up and showed a really good attitude to stay on up the hill at Navan. He was fastest through the final 4 furlongs by 1 second against his rivals on the day. It was only his third run, or his second run. He's won his point to point as well. And going into that race, there wasn't much to separate him and his stable companion, Classical Creek, in the market. In the end, the market did come for Calypso Chance, and that proved obviously accurate. As Emma said, Patrick Mullins rode him. And yeah, it's been a race that's been a really good pointer for Gordon Elliott, trained the horses to the champion bumper in the past.
Lee?
Yeah, I think recency bias maybe means that this horse has been missed. Look, Gordon didn't send much to the Dublin Racing Festival. I was hoping to see the horse declared there, but it's been kept off. Like Emma and Donn said, though, I think got a solid chance. Won that listed race easily, and Gordon's won it a few times. So yeah, I just think the top 2 in the market maybe is worth taking on, and I take Calypso Chance.
And Dan, a couple more. Dan, first of all.
Yeah, a couple in the handicaps. Bustleton in the cross country is a horse I've been keen to have on side for a little bit now. Obviously, Joseph O'Brien, excellent target trainer, and he's had kind of the archetypal old school preparation for this. 2 lovely runs over course and distance, get him acclimatized to it. Ran in the Boyne, showing plenty of enthusiasm. Perfect prep, and he's going to be getting a lot of weight from the other principals in this race. And now it's a handicap; it's a far more interesting race. And interestingly, his last 2 wins under all codes came with the application of headgear back on, having been off for a long time. It's been a similar story this season. 3 runs, no headgear. I very much expect the blinkers or even like a visor or cheek pieces to go on for the first time, and that will spark further improvement. This looks like to have been a long-term season plan. I think he's got an excellent chance. And the Grand Annual, Liberty Hunter isn't a certainty to run because they may well go to the Champion Chase, but to me, this looks a really weak renewal, and I think he could just be a class above these if he did run here. Obviously, second in it last year for Mark 139. So off 151 here, that doesn't look a gift, but I think he's an improved horse. He keeps stepping up on the form he's shown previously. Another career best in the Game Spirit last time out. And I was left alone on a Mark 151 there. I thought that was generous handicapping. I think he's 9.0 with non-run no bet around, which you'd need because he could go to the Champion Chase. But it doesn't look a deep Grand Annual, and I think he could take a lot of beating there.
And Charlie, couple for you.
Yeah, Be Aware in the Coral Cup for the Skeltons. You know, he was strongly fancied for the Greatwood and ran a cracker there. Slightly underwhelming at Ascot in his next start, but you know, I think this trip he's been freshened up since then for maybe bar the likes of Gavin Cromwell, probably the best festival target trainer in Dan Skelton. And then in the bumper, I mean, nothing would give me greater pleasure than to see Calypso Chance win, and an Irish-trained winner of the bumper that won an English point-to-point would just be brilliant. So I would be very happy to see that. But one of Gordon's other ones, Chalon Dudery, that was third in the race last year, has obviously had problems. If he can get there, I think he's a horse with a big engine. I'm not sure this year's renewal is as good as the last one.
Okay. Muga says Ballyburn is proven class horse. If it was as soft as last year, you couldn't be sure he doesn't get outplodded. Outplodded and too classy for this race, says Charlie Post. Since when has this race been a plodding boat race? And then I remembered that Don Poley won it. So, hey, maybe it is just that. I don't know. And then we got 3 Ballyburn lays. So these are the best Wednesday lays. Just your view, please, Matt, because I didn't really hear it on against Ballyburn. Why?
Well, no winner since at least 1990 has run in, let alone won a Grade 1 hurdle around 2 miles and then gone on to win this. It's a totally different type of race. Bred to stay, has been said, you know, full brothers, including Noble Endeavour, third in the Ultimate, but none of those siblings had anything like his 2 mile speed. I remember Flemenstar, a full brother called Barafundle, who would have wanted a 4 mile hurdle had such a thing existed, and Flemenstar didn't stay. So I don't think you should rely too much on the breeding. Ballyburn doesn't really settle that well, so that'd be a concern going slower. He lands with little momentum. You've got 5 more fences in just 3 furlongs more than in the race at Leopardstown. Quite a lot of these could line up, as has been pointed out, without the other 2 conditions races. This could be a deeper race. I think he's very beatable at around 2.75.
And we know that Charlie and Michael are also against Ballyburn. Lee, you're against the New Lion in the Turners.
Yeah, look, I really like the Yellow Clay. I think I've took the win and place part because if the New Lion turns out to be a beast, that's fine. But I think I've got 2 darts against them, and that's Final Demand and the Yellow Clay. And I really like the profile of the Yellow Clay, so win and place for me.
Okay, and then best bets. I think we know where you're going to go with that, but I'll go in order. Matt, your best Wednesday Cheltenham Festival bet is?
The Yellow Clay.
Don.
Yeah, Better Days Ahead.
Charlie Post.
Final Demand.
Dan.
Bustleton in the cross country.
That's superb. 15.0 best bet in the cross country. Lee.
The Yellow Clay.
There we are. We knew that. And Emma.
Better Days Ahead.